says when lightning strikes, you see the flash. Okay, we've all done this. If you've ever been outside, like practicing, and you see lightning, and it used to be we'd count, and if we heard thunder within a certain number of seconds, we had to cancel practice because we didn't want anybody to get struck by lightning. Typically not a good thing to happen. Yeah, you could take it. Okay. So it says when we see a flash instantly because light travels at the speed of light, but the sound arrives later as it travels at approximately 330 meters per second. So we know this is our sound, 300 meters per second. All right. The speed that it travels at is affected by the temperature, okay, of the surrounding air. The time that sound takes to travel 1 kilometer is modeled by this formula. Okay, so C is the temperature, okay, and T is the amount of time. Okay, so what's going to happen is the speed that it takes to travel 1 kilometer changes depending on if it's hotter or warmer. What do you think is going to be true? Is sound going to travel faster when it's warm or when it's cold? Warm? Okay. So let's see when we graph this, we'll be able to see. All right, so when we're looking at this chart right here, okay, we've got this graph, and C, that's our dependent variable. So this is our temperature in Celsius. So we'll just write temperature on here, and we're going to say Celsius. All right, and then this is going to be the time over here in seconds. Okay, then it says sketch the graph for T. This is a misprint in your textbook. This should be sketch the graph of T for C being negative 20 degrees Celsius to 40 degrees Celsius. Okay, if you look at this graph up here, it goes from negative 30 degrees Celsius to 60 degrees Celsius. Okay, all right, where this should say where C is the temperature in Celsius. So there was a couple of misprints in there. All right, so all I did is I sent you a Desmos that's got this graph already drawn. So I just typed that in and I started adjusting it so that I could see the whole thing. Now, if I went from 20 to 40, okay, you can see that I don't see anything. Okay, now what I'd have to do is change my seconds. So I'm going to just change my X coordinate here, or my Y's, and I'm going to go from 0 to I don't know, 10 seconds maybe. And then if I wanted to do this from negative 20 to positive 40, okay, that's what the graph looks like. All right, that's what it would look like if I didn't zoom out. So we can take that and we can sketch it. All right, so that's about 3. All right, and then it gradually goes down. See, you can barely see the curve until you zoom out. Okay, but we're gonna, so if we were drawing this to like 60, let's see, it would kind of look like that. This is 3, and this is just a tad under 3. Okay, so we went back to our graph here. This was 3, and then at 60, it was just a little bit under 3. So even though there's a curve to this, since we're so zoomed in, it looks almost like a straight line. But there's actually a little curve to it. We can't see the curve because we're so zoomed in. Okay. Any questions on that part? All right, now it says draw a line at T equals 3 and find the temperature of the surrounding air when the sound of thunder is 3 seconds after the flash. All right, so we're drawing a line at T equals 3. Is that going to be a horizontal or a vertical line? Pardon me? Horizontal, because this is on the y-axis. Okay, so we're really just drawing this is on the y-axis, so you're drawing a horizontal line at y equals 3. And then what you want to do is find the intersection. All right, so we go back to our graph. And I create another line, and I make it y equals 3. And it's hard to tell the difference. So to change the color of a line, guys, you click on the gear, and then you just click on the color. I'm going to change it to blue. Now, I can't even tell where they cross. Okay, so I'm just going to try to zoom in here. Still have a hard time telling where they cross. But if I click on where it's close that they cross, Desmos finds it for me. Okay, so that's the point where those two cross each other. All right, so we go back here. And when I drew my line at y equals 3 on my drawing, it's going to look like this. It's a little cockeyed, but it's y equals 3. And then I'm going to label this intersection. And I'm going to label it 0.5563. All right, so what is the temperature going to be on that? Which one of these is temperature? The X or the Y? Yeah, so my answer to this problem is going to be 5.556 degrees Celsius. Now you're going to repeat it for number 6. Now draw a line at y equals 6. And then find the intersection. Okay, so I'm going to go out to that, go back to my drawing here. Okay, change that to a 6. I don't even see it, so I got to start zooming out until I can see where it crosses that red graph. Okay, right there. Now, if I want to get this graph so that it looks, I can see the curve more, okay, I'm going to take my y-axis and make it like from 0 to, I don't know, 10 seconds. And now you can see that when I do that, it's a lot easier to see the two. Okay, and I think on this drawing here, oh, it went all the way up to 160 seconds. Oh no, where it was. Yeah. So we didn't have to graph this one, so it didn't matter. But once I do that, then I just click right there. It would have to be negative 272.2 degrees Celsius for the speed of, for it to take 6 seconds to get there. So when it gets warmer, somebody said the speed gets faster, and that is true. Okay, so you can see this graph's going downward as the temperature goes upward, temperature on the y-axis. Okay, so this guy right here, okay, there's my graph. So my answer here would be negative 272.2 degrees. So all of these ones that have involved graphing, we've always found, we've graphed two things and we find where they intersect. All right, so now if you open up 5, I did the same thing. So if we go back to here and we open up graph number 5, okay. Okay, the red line is our graph, okay, or the red curve. And let's see what the context is here. All right, so when you join a fitness center for a trial, you get the first 5 sessions free. After the first 5 sessions, the cost to join is 200 euros. The average cost per person, or the average cost per session, is modeled by this. Okay, so all I did was I typed that into Desmos, and then I looked at this picture that was given to me in the problem, and I just set it up so that those were my X's and my Y's. Okay, so it says sketch the function, identify the vertical and the horizontal asymptotes. Well, just by looking at this, we know that the vertical asymptote is that value right there, but that, remember, it's bizarro world. So that's x equals 5. All right, so that's our vertical. And the horizontal asymptotes, there's nothing being added out here. So our horizontal asymptote is going to be 0. Okay, so I just set this, I set up the numbers, And then I drew, if you look at how I drew it, I get rid of this, get rid of that, and it just looks like that. And then I drew the vertical asymptote, x equals 5, and then I turned it into a dotted line by just clicking on that and clicking dots. And I changed the color. Okay, and that kind of gives me an idea of what my graph looks like. All right, so then we sketch that guy in there. Maybe pick a point that I'm going to use this point, like, okay, that looks like about 10, 40, just to get an idea of how steep to make this thing. And I just picked the point off of the graph. Okay, this is a calculator problem. So as long as it doesn't have that non-calculator symbol, that means you'd be using, like, in this case, you could use Desmos to do it. All right, then it says draw a line on your sketch to get the cost per 20 euros. Okay, now remember, S is the number of sessions. So this is your sessions. Yes. Oh, yeah. I drew that incorrect. Thank you. You're exactly right. Okay, so I would have my asymptote drawn in there. And then, so it would look more like this. All right, then it says draw a line to sketch your cost. So we know sessions is the bottom. This is your y-axis, which is your cost. So horizontal or vertical line? Yep. So cost is on the y-axis, so I'm going to draw a line at y equals 20. Since cost is y-axis. And then I just look, where do they cross? Find that intersection. Okay. X equals 5 and y equals, there's your number of sessions, 15. So as you attend more sessions, your cost per session obviously is going to go down. Okay, so my answer to this is 15 sessions.